Can 35 million book buyers be wrong? Yes. By Harold Bloom, The Wall Street Journal, July 11th, 2000, period. Taking arms against Harry Potter at this moment is to emulate Hamlet taking arms against a sea of troubles. By opposing the sea, you won't end it. The Harry Potter epiphenomenon will go on, doubtless for some time, as J.R.R. Tolkien did, and then wane. The official newspaper of our dominant counterculture, the New York Times, has been startled by the Potter books into establishing a new policy for its not very literate book review. Rather than crowd out the Grishams, Clancys, Crichtons, Kings, and other vastly popular prose fictions on its fiction bestseller list, the Potter volumes will now lead a separate children's list. J.K. Rowling, the chronicler of Harry Potter, thus has an unusual distinction. She has changed the policy of the policymaker. I read new children's literature when I can find some of any value, but had not tried Rowling until now. I have just concluded the 300 pages of the first book in the series, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, purportedly the best of the lot. Though the book is not well written, that is not in itself a crucial liability. It is much better to see the movie The Wizard of Oz than to read the book upon which it was based, but even the book possessed an authentic imaginative vision. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone does not, so that one needs to look elsewhere for the book's and its sequel's remarkable success. Such speculation should follow an account of how and why Harry Potter asks to be read. The ultimate model for Harry Potter is Tom Brown's School Days by Thomas Hughes, published in 1857. The book depicts the Rugby School, presided over by the formidable Thomas Arnold, remembered now primarily as the father of Matthew Arnold, the Victorian critic and poet. But Hughes's book, still quite readable, was realism, not fantasy. Rowling has taken Tom Brown's School Days and re-seen it in the magical mirror of Tolkien. The resultant blend of schoolboy ethos with a liberation from the constraints of reality testing may read oddly to me, but it is exactly what millions of children and their parents desire and welcome at this time. In what follows, I may at times indicate some of the inadequacies of Harry Potter, but I will keep in mind that a host are reading it who simply will not read superior fare, such as Kenneth Graham's The Wind in the Willows, or the Alice books of Lewis Carroll. Is it better that they read Rowling than not read at all? Will they advance from Rowling to more difficult pleasures? Rowling presents two Englands, mundane and magical, divided not by social classes, but by the distinction between the perfectly normal, mean and selfish, and the adherents of sorcery. The sorcerers indeed seem as middle class as the Muggles, the name the witches and wizards give to the common sort, since those addicted to magic send their sons and daughters off to Hogwarts, a rugby school where only witchcraft and wizardry are taught. Hogwarts is presided over by Albus Dumbledore as headmaster, he being Rowling's version of Tolkien's Gandalf. The young future sorcerers are just like any other budding Britons, only more so, sports and food being their primary occupations. Sex barely enters into Rowling's cosmos, at least in the first volume. Harry Potter, now the hero of so many millions of children and adults, is raised by dreadful Muggle relatives after his sorcerer parents are murdered by the wicked Voldemort, a wizard gone trollish, and finally post-human. Precisely why poor Harry is handed over by the Sorcerer elders to his priggish aunt and uncle is never clarified by Rowling, but it is a nice touch, suggesting, again, how conventional the alternative Britain truly is. They consign their potential hero-wizard to his nasty bloodkin rather than let him be reared by amiable warlocks and witches, who would know him for one of their own. The child Harry thus suffers the hateful ill-treatment of the Dursleys, muggles of the most muggle-worthy sort, and of their sadistic son, his cousin Dudley. For some early pages, we might be in Ken Russell's film of Tommy, the rock opera by The Who, except that the prematurely wise Harry is much healthier than Tommy. A born survivor, Harry holds on until the sorcerers rescue him and send him off to Hogwarts to enter upon the glory of his school days. Hogwarts enchants many of Harry's fans, perhaps because it is much livelier than the schools they attend. But it seems to me an academy more tiresome than grotesque. When the future witches and wizards of Great Britain are not studying how to cast a spell, they preoccupy themselves with bizarre intramural sports. It is rather a relief when Harry heroically suffers the ordeal of a confrontation with Voldemort, which the youth handles admirably. One can reasonably doubt that Harry and the Sorcerer's Stone is going to prove a classic of children's literature, but Rowling, whatever the aesthetic weaknesses of her work, is at least a millennial index to our popular culture. So huge an audience gives her importance akin to rock stars, movie idols, TV anchors, and successful politicians. Her prose style, heavy on cliché, makes no demands upon her readers. In an arbitrarily chosen single passage, page 4 of the first Harry Potter book, I count 7 clichés, all of the stretch his legs variety. How to read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone? Why, very quickly, to begin with, perhaps also to make an end. Why read it? Presumably, if you cannot be persuaded to read anything better, Rowling will have to do. Is there any redeeming educational use to Rowling? Is there any to Stephen King? Why read, if what you read will not enrich mind or spirit or personality? For all I know, the actual wizards and witches of Britain or America may provide an alternative culture for more people than is commonly realized. Perhaps Rowling appeals to millions of non-readers because they sense her wistful sincerity and want to join her world, imaginary or not. She feeds a vast hunger for unreality. Can that be bad? At least her fans are momentarily emancipated from their screens, and so may not forget wholly the sensation of turning the pages of a book, any book. And yet I feel a discomfort with the Harry Potter mania, and I hope that my discontent is not merely a highbrow snobbery, or a nostalgia for a more literate fantasy to beguile, shall we say, intelligent children of all ages. Can more than 35 million book buyers and their offspring be wrong? Yes, they have been, and will continue to be, for as long as they persevere with Potter. A vast concourse of inadequate works, for adults and for children, crams the dustbins of the ages. At a time when public judgment is no better and no worse than what is proclaimed by the ideological cheerleaders who have so destroyed humanistic studies, anything goes. The cultural critics will soon enough introduce Harry Potter into their college curriculum, and the New York Times will go on celebrating another confirmation of the dumbing down it leads and exemplifies. Mr. Bloom is a professor at Yale. His most recent book is How to Read and Why. And thank you for listening, and Happy New Year.